or why are we allowing these conspiracy theorists to hijack science and use it against us or use it against mainstream?
That's a great question, and I think there's a couple of strands to that question. I think some people, the people who aren't huge YouTube figures who are raking money in to perpetrate, etc. But if we're going to talk about the honest conspiracy theorists who believe, for example, the Earth is flat, I think a lot of it lies in the fact that a lot of what they bring up to them is counterintuitive, right? If they've not perhaps had a grasp of science at school, they've not enjoyed it, to them it might be counterintuitive of, oh, hang on, how can we have an atmosphere next to space? And, they just can't believe, or it's a refusal to believe an explanation from somebody else. But I think it starts with, I think some things to them are slightly counterintuitive, but then that's mixed in with a stubbornness to then just hold that position, and maybe a lack of ability to reason outside of it as well.
Yeah, you're right, and they have their proponents, don't they, who seem to be able to articulate scientific words and scientific explanations. And I mean, you'll know of who I'm talking about. They're able to weave a story using that science, which seems to fly in the face of mainstream science, and they get droves of people believing their version of science.
A prime example at the minute that I'm really annoyed by, I'll be honest, is, and I won't use names, but the people at the minute who are perpetuating the whole germ theory is wrong and it's all train theory. People who are using words that like PCR testing, Cox postulates, isolation of virus, PCR tests, etc. Did I say that twice? I can't remember. But people are using, this kind of language and explaining, or trying to explain what Cox postulates is for, but a virus can't fit it. And anyone who doesn't know anything about biology and what the history of Cox postulates and how they have to be modified, etc., even intelligent people might listen to that and think, wow, that's quite compelling.
They're going to take their word for it, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, and if they're articulate, and some of these people are medical professionals, although none of them in the field of microbiology and virology, which is no surprise. And they can be very convincing. Let's say they dress up that language, and if they present it in a well articulated manner without a knowledge of Cox postulates and biology, how can you possibly debunk them? So it can be quite swaying.
Yeah, it's a bit of a minefield at the moment, isn't it? With that and the masks and the whole COVID hoax and everything like that. It's just there's so much misinformation out there that I think it would take thousands of people like us to just try and combat that sort of misinformation. There's just that much of it out there. I see it all the time. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. It's very difficult to combat that.
It is, and what doesn't help is I think a lot of these theories have a tiny fraction of what they say that might be scientifically correct. So, for example, the masks at the minute, we all know. I mean, it's not going to say that if you've got a mask on and viruses are coming out of your face in droplets of water, that mask is going to reduce the amount that gets into the atmosphere. We know that.
Yeah.
And nobody out there is saying that a mask is 100% going to be effective. But obviously, the layperson knows that, well, that means the masks are going to drastically reduce the spread. But the conspiracy theorists, they'll take that and they'll say masks are proven not to work.
Yeah, they will.
They'll take that slither of truth and they'll distort it into something that is just not right, and then spread it like a rumor. And then people have a catchphrase. All these people have that catchphrase now. Masks don't work, it's proven.
Yeah.
And that's the power of social media.
Yeah, absolutely.